Services Committee to order at 6:45. Members present on my committee is Council Tavares and Council Waterman. First, I have Emily Miller for Community Development Director. Come on up.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Emily Miller from Somerset, Massachusetts. I'm the new Community Development Director. Started last month. I have a master's in public administration, and I came from Marion, Massachusetts as a grant writer, a grant administrator, but I also have worked with CDBG in Central Falls for about 2.5 years, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly always have the need for grant writers, and actually looking at your resume and stuff, it's pretty impressive, and you know, I think obviously I think you're going to be a great fit here, and welcome aboard, and thank you very much, and looking forward to it. Councilors, any questions?
What excited you the most about coming?
Coming to Attleboro?
Correct.
I really missed CDBG work, especially in Central Falls, which is a similar city as Attleboro, obviously a lot smaller community, but the work is very similar to what we did over there, and I love this work. This is what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, comes across. Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, great. Emily, thank you, appreciate it very much, and we look forward to seeing a lot of your work and stuff.
I'll be most likely seeing you April 1st for the budget and the action plan.
All right, awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Next up, Christopher Hartford for Council on Human Rights.
Thank you, Chairman Angelo, and good evening, everybody. My name is Christopher Hartford. As I said, I live at 34 Snell Street, directly adjacent to Nickerson Park. I am formerly of Seekonk, and so Attleboro has been like a second home to me. I am seeking appointment to the Attleboro Council on Human Rights. I have much experience in human rights advocacy as well as education. I was a human rights officer for a residential program with BAMSI out of Brockton, first in West Bridgewater and then in Canton from 2017 to 2019. And I was a human rights training instructor from 2018 to 2019 for BAMSI. Currently, or I should say more recently, I was a human rights advocate at Mobile Crisis Intervention for Riverside Community Care in Milford. And I have recently began a position as a clinician, once again for BAMSI, in which I am serving underserved individuals with autism and SMI with intensive wraparound services.
Well, that's great. Obviously, this is a perfect fit for you, and I appreciate you stepping up and volunteering for this. I think you're going to be a great help to this committee, and I think I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some stuff. Council Dolan and then Council Sawyer.
Thank you. Well, thank you for volunteering. What's BMZ?
BAMSI stands for Brockton Area Multi-Services Incorporated.
Okay, thank you.
They're a human services agency that operates out of Brockton and serves now the entire southeast Massachusetts.
Great. Well, thank you for everything you've done and continue to do. And I think this will be a great fit for you, and I appreciate you being willing to serve.
Thank you very much. As an Attleboro resident, I consider it an honor and a duty to serve my community.
Oh, that's great.
Council Sawyer.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Hello.
I actually was the chair of the Council on Human Rights before being here on the council. Very great that you're willing to come up and serve on the council. I wonder, is there anything that you think that you want to work on the Council on Human Rights here in Attleboro?
Having attended a few meetings already, I know that certain things that I would like to work on is creating more visibility for diverse populations and businesses in Attleboro.
Great. Thank you, and I think you'll be a great fit on the council as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? All right, awesome, Christopher. Appreciate it very much, and look forward to seeing some of your work, and thank you for stepping up. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
All right,
Thank
great.
you all for having me.
Have a great day. All right, from the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Emily Miller to fill the 2-year term of Community Development Director, term to expire February 2027. Ms. Miller was offered the position with the City of the Attleboro effective January 27, 2025, under a temporary 90-day appointment.
Second.
Thank you, Council Tavares. Obviously, we just heard from Emily, and I think she's going to be a really asset to this position, and looking forward to it. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I like the fact she's excited to come here. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, absolutely. All right. All right. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 3-0. From the docket of March 4th, 2025, entertain a motion to transfer $5,150 from account 1124100-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to the following accounts to cover calendar year 2024. $400 to account Public Works Sick Pay Incentive, $200 to Recreation Sick Pay Incentive, $400 to Council on Aging Sick Pay Incentive, $1,250 Planning Sick Pay Incentive, $1,250 to Budget Administration Sick Pay Incentive, $1,250 to Human Resource Sick Pay Incentive, $200 to Assessor Sick Pay Incentive, $200 to the Library Sick Pay Incentive.
Second.
Thank you, Council Tavares. So obviously, this is contractual, and it's, as it states, it's a sick pay incentive, and these are the bonuses for these people that have earned them for the year. Any questions, comments, concerns?
No.
All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. From the docket of February 18th, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Christopher Hartford, 34 Snell Street, to fill an expired term of the Council on Human Rights, term to expire February 2028.
Second.
Thank you, Council Tavares. Again, we just heard from Christopher. Obviously, I think he's very impressive. He's going to be a great fit, and he comes with a lot of experience already, and I think we're going to be lucky to have him. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 3-0. That's all for Personnel, Veteran, and Youth Service Committee. A call for an adjournment at 6:52.
Second.
Thank you, Council Tavares. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 3-0. We are adjourned.
Thank you. I'd like to call the Finance Committee to order at 6:52. On the committee, it's myself, Councilor Reynolds, and Councilor Tavares. All right, we have a number of items tonight. The first item from the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to appropriate $41,242.78 from account 1000-359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 11451-000-530142 treasurer remediation for city-owned property at 41R Summer Street, Attleboro.
Second.
Motion is in order. This is money to remediate a foreclosed property, to clean it up so that we can then sell it. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, next. From the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve expenditures of no more than $365,000 from Special Education Stabilization Fund 8507 for unexpected special education transportation costs incurred during the current fiscal year.
Second.
Motion is in order, and with this item, so last year we requested $350,000. This year we're asking for $365,000 from the Special Education Stabilization Fund. There's currently a little over $1 million in that fund. And this is to cover special education transportation costs. And by utilizing this money, and the motion doesn't specify, but there was an increase in both special education transportation costs as well as students from foster care and homeless students. And so by utilizing some of this money, we won't be covering those individuals, but we'll then be able to afford that without having to ask for additional funds. Does that make sense? Okay. So with that said, are there any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. From the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to transfer $39,400 from account 1124100-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1141100-530102 Assessor Appraisal Services.
Second.
Motion is in order. This is to hire for appraisal services, and when I spoke to Deb about this, and it's like, we had done this last year, and it helped us identify sources of revenue, and the question was, well, why didn't we budget for this again? Why didn't we budget for this in the budget, and why, as opposed to asking for it out of the citywide reserve fund for transfer? And the intent is to budget for these appraisal services next year. The expectation is this will be covered by assessed increases in assessed property values, but I don't know. It should be budgeted for. I don't want to say it's an oversight, but we should account for it in the budget as opposed to doing this transfer a little bit into the fiscal year. So, but I support this, and I hope you guys do as well. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Is there some way
As a
to
whole.
determine whether or not, in fact, their work will produce over $39,500 worth of increased assessment? How do we evaluate their worth?
I don't. I forget exactly what the numbers were, but I think it was significantly more with the cell towers last year. So, I wouldn't want to. I think it's kind of like the parking attendant. Like I don't want to incentivize them. I don't think that would be a good idea. I think we want them to do a fair job in sort of tax people fairly. So I wouldn't want to try to incentivize them, but metrics wise. Councilor Lavoie and then Councilor Dolan.
I just want to agree with your last statement in terms of this is more so defined loose ends that maybe we didn't catch or property we haven't caught. We're not actively trying to find more tax streams that are like egregious on residents of Attleboro. So I think, I don't remember the number either, but I believe it was 5 or 10 times the amount being asked for today. And I would assume that if perhaps we were well below the threshold of what we're going to pay out, that at some point we'd probably not put it in an annual budget and we'd do away with that service. But I'm pretty confident that we'll probably have a good return again this year.
As am I. Councilor Dolan.
And just to mention, if we remember when the assessor was down here, and she had said that they used to self-report. So we need a third party to make sure that we're getting the tax dollars of what these, cell towers hypothetically are appraised at. So to rely on them to self-report, isn't really to our benefit. So I'll support this for sure.
Agreed. Councilor Tavares.
Yeah, so, I mean, I agree with Councillor Foa's sentiment, I think, with the comment. I mean, obviously, you don't want to necessarily be paying for, I think, more or less consulting services that would turn out to be a wash, right? But there was a specific reason behind that. And I was thinking exactly what Councillor Dolan said about when Julie was last down here. I think I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. Maybe Councillor Voy, I think you mentioned a multiple that may be somewhere in that range. But I just remember there was no comparison. It was just drastically more. And it was probably for that very reason, because, I mean, you leave it to people to self-report, right, versus an actual consulting firm that's going to come in, or appraisal company to do that. It's a very, very different process. I imagine that even if we budget for this, that it doesn't seem like something that we would do in perpetuity, so to speak, right? But I would imagine on a year by year basis that's an assessment that Julie and her department would probably make, right? Whether we have a consultant,
absolutely,
I would
yes.
imagine.
All right.
One question.
Councilor Waterman.
Thank you. It's just a question. Now, am I correct in understanding that an appraisal to go out and visit is we're supposed to do it every 5 years?
This is different. I believe this is looking more at the personal property.
Okay.
In looking at those aspects.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. All right. From the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to hold a public hearing on April 1st, 2025, relative to the administration's CDBG Program Year 2025 Annual Action Plan, authorization to submit said CDBG Program Year 2025 Annual Action Plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on or before May 15th, 2025.
Second.
Motion's in order. Just a public hearing on April 1st. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And from the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to appropriate $16,339 from account 1-000-359000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account A4220070-55170 school department maintenance buildings for the purpose of installing automatic doors at Wamsutta School.
Second.
Motion's in order, and this is just to install automatic doors at Wamsutta. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And finally, from the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve funds to be appropriated from certified free cash into Fund 2517, Reserve for Compensated Absent, and funds to be appropriated from the certified retained earnings for each enterprise fund be made into Reserve for Compensated Absence Fund as follows. Appropriate $315,970 from General Fund Undesignated Fund Balance 1000-359000 to Fund 2517, Reserve for Compensated Absence to fund the general government share of compensated absence liabilities. Appropriate $11,556 from Water Enterprise Fund Retained Earnings Account 6100-359000 to fund 2517, Reserve for Compensated Absence to fund the Water Enterprise Fund share of compensated absence liabilities. Appropriate $14,612 from 6000-359000 Wastewater Enterprise Fund Retained Earnings to fund 2517, Reserve for Compensated Absence to fund the Wastewater Enterprise Fund share of compensated absence.
Second.
Absences. Motion is in order. And notes on this. Goodness. Sorry. Okay, so this is something that we do each year, and the 315,000 is roughly 10% of what we need to put in there. 10% of the liabilities that we have for it's roughly 10% of the liabilities that we need to fund. So 315 is roughly 10%, 11,000 is 10% for the water, and the 14,000 is 10% for wastewater. This is something that we started doing a number of years ago in 2020. A couple years ago, during COVID, we put in a little bit more, but it was only 14% in 2022. But it was 14% because we had a little extra money to fund those liabilities. And this is something that Standard & Poor's looks at for us to be sort of increasing, reducing our liabilities. For in that retirement fund. Does that make sense? And so, according to Deb, she would prefer for us to be putting more into this instead of just the 10% across the board, in doing more like the 14% we did a couple of years ago. But at a minimum, we should be putting in this 10% so that we can maintain our bond ratings and all of that. So it's a good thing. This is us being responsible and sort of maintaining, like having a reserve for compensated absences for our employees.
I agree, so you want me to second that?
So
Because I'm.
And I apologize that it took me a few minutes to sort of figure this out, but it is a fair amount of money. So are there questions? And I probably did a horrible job communicating, but yeah, go ahead, Councilor
I
LeBoy.
think I understand it. I think you did fine. Do you know if it's the point of the administration to only do the 10% for this year? Are they gonna maybe look at doing the additional 4 at any point?
My understanding is for this year, it's only the 10%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilor Sawyer.
So I just want to clarify for my own understanding.
Yep.
It says compensated absences, so is it basically
Sick
employees
time, vacation,
so then this, like, put in this bank so that they're paid out of that bank when they, for the sick
Correct.
and
Yep.
vacation? Okay, just,
Or
it's
if-
done in different,
yeah.
businesses much differently, so I just was wondering that. That clears it up.
Councilor Tavares.
So similar point, so this is obligatory anyway, right, for the city?
Yes.
So whether it's in this account or not, ultimately, we're gonna end up paying it, right? We're gonna transfer it over eventually? If we didn't do this.
Eventually. But people build up sick time over time, and it's a question of whether they take it this year or if they just sort of build it up over time and then it just disappears when it gets paid out when they retire or.
Right, but my point is we just sort of kick the can down the road, but eventually it's going to be paid out. And so where I was going with that is, what is the downside to increasing it, or is it just a matter of liquidity in sort of the general fund? Like not having funds there because we've then put them in these reserve funds for now.
It's liquidity. Yes. And looking good for, bond rating and all of that. Councilor Angela.
Thank you, Council. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think during the COVID times, we had some extra money coming in from the government, and there was some extra there, and we had some extra cash, and so that was to be able to get it and get ahead of it a little bit. Then,
Correct.
And right now, there's not as much coming through, so we're bumping it back to 10%, just so that we don't really get ourselves in a bind.
And this
for
is the
something else.
second year we've only done 10%.
Yeah.
What did we do previously?
14.
We did 14%, 10% last year, and this is the second year we're doing 10%. And those are the only 3 years I know the numbers for.
You want to second the motion?
No,
you already
I
did second, right?
it,
Yeah,
Yeah,
she-
I was just being frank.
Sorry. Any other questions? I mean, I think it's fairly straightforward, but it was confusing for me to wrap my head around when I was talking to Deb about it. So, and if anyone wants further clarification, feel free to reach out to the auditor about it. But hearing no other questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. And that's it for this. And that concludes the business for the Finance Committee. I move to adjourn at 7:11.
The IT.
Well, wait,
You got a second?
Second, sorry.
second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and we are adjourned.
The IT and Infrastructure Committee has no business this evening. I call the committee meeting at the next appropriate time. It's also the case that the Special Committee on Rules and Procedure has no business this evening. So I call for that committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. I'll get this out of the way first. And Public Safety Committee is canceled for this evening. And I'd like to call to order the License Committee at 7:12. Beside me tonight is Councilor Waterman, and Councilor Holmes is absent. From the docket of January 7th, 2025, entertain a motion to strike the following: to approve the application for a guard dog at 97 Emery Street LLC from Zahid Quadir.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. I'm striking it this evening because the applicant failed to meet the guidelines for the public hearing by notifying abutters. What I want to do is get it off the record and allow him to reapply if he'd like. What I don't want to do is leave it stagnant in committee and kind of leave a gray area for can the dog be on the property or not be on the property. So to ensure that we're working well with animal control and that they can do what they need to do, I just want to get it out of the committee. So if there's any questions, comments, concerns, Councilor Sawyer?
So, you just mentioned something about, can the dog be on the property at all, or is it as a guard dog? So is that what this is about, them being on the property or not? I just want to clarify.
Yeah, so the issue at hand is the dog bit two people,
Oh,
one of which is a city employee. And the other issue at hand is we've had 3 complaints from nearby residents. The fence is inadequate. The dog has gotten out multiple times. So it's not as much can or cannot, like can the dog be there or not be there? That's not for the committee to decide or the body to decide. That's for animal control. But what I don't want is the applicant to use the fact that this is still sitting in committee and he wants to get another public hearing on the books. And I don't want this to be the reason someone else gets bit by a dog or that they can't do their job. So I'd rather get it out of committee, allow him to reapply, which is more than rightful to do, and kind of keep on going. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Perfect. Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 2-0. That concludes the business for the License Committee. I would move to adjourn at 7:14.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
I'd like to call the City Property and Claims Committee to order at 7:14. Members of my committee are Councilor Foer and Councilor Sawyer. From the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to hold a public hearing on March 18th, 2025, in accordance with Section 2-11.2 of the city ordinances, and declare the 95 Pine Street Richardson School property further identified by the chief assessor as map 39, lot 284, as available for disposition.
Second.
Thank you. This is just calling for the public hearing. Okay? Any questions or concerns? No? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. From the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve the 2 one-year extensions with CELT Integrity for internet access as requested by the school department.
Second.
Thank you. Again, I think pretty self-explanatory. This is something that they use. This is the internet service that they use. Any questions or concerns regarding that?
I actually do. I wonder, I've heard many people, whether it be school committee people or others in the building, that the internet service is not great. And so I don't know.
You're
it's-
probably not mistaken, that it's not, because I hear it too, but we have really no right to tell them that's who they can't use.
Oh,
That's their budget, we just have to agree.
I got it.
We can't say much about that. But
Okay.
I agree with you, we hear lots of complaints about that at the high school. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 From the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to accept the donation of 180 stuffed lions and 3 mounted canvas lion illustrations donated to the zoo from Jared Kenny of Dartmouth Street, Manchester, New Hampshire. The items will be used for a Lion Love promotion.
Second.
Again, we talked about this earlier, when this came out down from the mayor. I think it's a nice thing that they're doing. You know, every donation is really great when people make different types of things available for any kind of functions that we're having. So, do I hear any further concerns or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. From the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to declare the following health department equipment as surplus and available for disposition. 1 HP LaserJet Enterprise Series M553 color printer. It's in fair condition.
Second.
Thank you. Again, pretty self-explanatory. It's no longer really working. It's in fair condition. I guess they could probably get another 6 months out of it if they had to, but there's a need for one that's working better. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. And then, from the docket of October 15th, 2024, I entertain a motion to strike the Highland resolution that was brought in by Councilor Holmes.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns regarding that? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. And that is, I believe, all the business that the City Property and Claims Committee has this evening, so I'd like to call for an adjournment.
Second.
Thank you. I call for an adjournment of this claims to City and Property and Claims at 7:18. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. We are adjourned.
I'd like to call Public Works Committee to order at 7:18. I have 2 motions from the docket of March 4th, 2025. I entertain a motion to appropriate $2,315 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to Fund 2334 to cover unreimbursed expenditures related to the zoo grant fund.
Second?
Thank you. So this is an unfortunate incident that happened. We were given a grant from the Mass Office of Business Development to the park, and we used the grant. The work that we performed was in accordance to the terms and the contract, and it was, you know how we always get grants and it says you have to use it by June 30th, whatever year. We did that as well, and we paid the invoice within the 15-day grace period, not grace period, excuse me, the 15-day grant period, and the state rejected it because the invoice was dated July 8th. The work was performed in June, according to the grant that we're supposed to use it. It was used. They, Derek tried to appeal it, and they would not accept it. So the only saving grace is that it's $2,300 and not $30,000.
So, question, if the wrong date was on the invoice,
It wasn't a wrong date. It was the invoice date. And even though,
so they did the work in June, but they invoiced it in July, they couldn't redo the invoice for the day the work
right,
was
and we still
done?
had time to pay for it because there's that 15-day period. But because the invoice didn't have a work performed date, and the invoice was just dated July 8th, which is outside the June 30th, they tried to appeal it and it wasn't accepted.
So they weren't able to like go back to the company that did the invoice, say, okay, you need to properly do this invoice the way this should be, and then resubmit it that way?
They tried to do that and the state wouldn't accept it. So, again, the only good part is it's not $30,000, it's $2,300. Although it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Highly.
Yeah, yeah, it's kinda, you
And
know,
there's no further appeal from,
nope. Nope. I spoke with Deb Gould about it and, you know, clearly nobody's happy about it, because the request for reconsideration was, denied. So, that's where we're at. Does anybody have any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And the second one I have from the from the docket of March 4th, 2025, I entertain a motion to transfer $11,757.50 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Public Works Crosswalk Systems for a new solar-powered crosswalk system to be installed at the intersection of North Main Street and Elizabeth Street.
second,
Thank you. So, everybody knows these systems, the RRFBs for being able to cross. This is going at the CVS and Elizabeth Street. I know a lot of people want the light back, and I can't say I don't agree with that, but, checking with all the different departments that have everything to do with this, there have been no accidents, there have been no issues. This is just to help people cross when they're going to CVS. And that's the info I have on that. Does anybody have any questions? Council Sawyer?
I really just want to make a comment. I used to live on Elizabeth Street, so I know that intersection very well. And it is very hard to turn out of CVS, to turn left there, to turn out of Elizabeth Street without the light.
I
The light
agree.
was great and safe for people to cross there.
Yeah.
So it was it was very strange to even see that the light was gone when you go by, but
Right.
and
I mean,
wonder
and-
what happened.
And the
But-
light wasn't intentionally taken out. It
Oh.
fell,
Oh.
and created, some type of chaos there, but nobody was injured, thankfully. But, yes, I agree, because I use that vet right there, I use the CVS there, and I do agree, and, I know a lot of people aren't happy about it, because it's been there for so long. But according to the powers at be at this moment, they don't find it necessary to replace it right now. Counselor Angela?
I think it could be also part of, it's a big paycheck, it's a big number of dollars, upwards of $100,000.
Almost $100,000.
Yeah. And so, and I think at this time where, the opera funds have gone away, and there's only so much money to go around at the moment, and a lot of costs have risen like insanely. So I just think the administration's being a little bit cautious at the moment, and rightfully so. And I get it, and we don't want to risk public safety or anything, but there's only so much money to go around for everything, and there's so many things that need to be taken care of. So I think, I can't say, I wouldn't say that, hey, this will never happen, but probably at this moment, they're probably just being a little cautious, that's
I
it.
mean, I think the RRFBs are great. I think they're nice and bright, and when they're flashing and when people press the button, Because every time I drive by and someone's walking a crosswalk and they don't, I'm like, hit the button. Anyway, and it can't, and it's not like it can't be revisited. If we find a traffic issue, if anything happens that warrants it, I'm sure that we could revisit it. I don't see why not, you know? Does anybody else have any questions? Council Waterman?
Yes, I strongly support this. I stopped about a week ago for a lady who was very frustrated, standing there, and let her go, and I could tell that she had been there a while. So I tried it myself, and I bet 20 cars passed me before somebody finally noticed that I was standing there trying to cross. So it's very important, I think.
Right, so hopefully this will alleviate some of the crosswalk situation there, and we'll see how it goes, I guess. Does anybody else have any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That's all the business for the Public Works Committee. I'd like to call for an adjournment at 7:25.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned, thank you.
And I call zoning and land use and sustainability committee to order at 7:26. Members of this committee are myself, Laura Dolan, and Nick Lavoy, and I wanted to discuss, since our committee name now includes sustainability, and the Sustainability Commission works on discussing ways for the city and residents to become more sustainable. I'd like to discuss some recommendations that they have from the commission. Educating the public about sustainability is one of the commission's pillars. Making the public aware of these recommendations through the committee, especially now that it includes sustainability, is a great and appropriate way just to do that. In fact, to meet the language of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, Section 2-21, Sustainability Commission is to make recommendations to the mayor, municipal council on ways and means of initiating or developing new programs and policies to enhance sustainability and resiliency practices impacting the natural environment, the economy, and the community. So I have a couple of recommendations I do want to read for tonight. And my plan is to read one or two recommendation summaries at each committee meeting, and to answer any questions anybody might have. I do have project worksheets on them as well, and if anybody has questions. So I wanted to talk about the farmers market. The Sustainability Commission is recommending that they display at the summer and winter Attleboro farmers markets. And at the market staffed by the commission members, they'll be exposed to best practices of sustainability, and the commission views the sustainable education as one of its pillars. The summer and winter markets will give the commission a platform to inform residents on sustainable actions. This initiative is managed entirely by the commission. No action or funding is needed by the council. And one of the, on their project worksheet, they have already reached out to the people who do the farmers market both in the winter and summer, and they're doing it about 4 times each season, that they'll be at the like the winter market. They've been there, and they have one of their composting bins and a rain bucket, so they can just give that education out to the residents. And so then there's no charge for it, and so they just are giving that education. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is Attleboro High School composting. They're recommending the Attleboro High School initiate an on-site food composting program. 30% of food in the U.S. is wasted, ends up in the landfill, and decomposes to methane, a greenhouse gas that is 10 times worse than CO2. AHS is excited to start in the bistro and use the compost to grow food for the bistro and to share with residents. Project would also reduce costs of waste management. This initiative will be managed entirely by the commission, and no action or funded is needed by the council. Do you have questions?
Yeah, so they want to start a group at the high school, which I think is great, but, and it's saying no funding or anything is needed, but how are they going to do this? Like, is there a teacher, how is the teacher's not gonna be paid or something? Or is there volunteers doing this through the school or classes or?
Yes, the CTE program, there's a new one now with Environmental Services. And they are working with the Black Earth Composting company to do this composting there. It usually does cost something, but I was looking through the worksheet here to see where the funding came from, if at all. I can find that information out for to bring back later. But yeah, she's working with the CTE group there. That's how they're doing the composting.
Oh, cool.
Anybody have any other questions on either of these items that I read out today? All right, well, that's really all I had for the Zoning, Land Use, and Sustainability Committee, and well, we should adjourn at 7:30.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
We vote to call it to order. We need to vote to call it to order.
Did you call it to order?
I said the time, but maybe I didn't vote on it.
So we voted to.
Well, you don't vote on calling it to
take it
order.
out.
We what?
You don't vote on calling it to order.
No.
So why would you vote to
Oh,
close?
she was, no, you don't.
Well, when you start, I'd like to call the Rules Committee to order at 7:10,
Yeah,
and then you just start rambling.
yeah, but then you don't need to close, you don't need to call.
Well, if you call it,
We
if
can
you call it to order, you need to adjourn
You
it.
need to adjourn.
Yeah, but you
And
didn't, well, you didn't vote it into order, but that's okay.
that's- But you don't have to vote into order.
To
You
vote
just
to
never
open
vote
it.
into order, you go only to close.
Ready? The Transportation Traffic Committee has no business at this time. We'll move to the next appropriate.
I call ordinances, elections, and legislative matters to order at 7:31. So I don't plan to take anything out for a vote in this evening, this committee, but just wanted to call to everyone's attention the resolution that was originally sent down from the mayor several months ago regarding the city treasurer and collector positions, changing those from elected to appointed. As everyone will probably recall, we had George Spatcher and Sharon Fortin down here a couple of weeks ago to speak to the process from an election standpoint and what that needs to look like. I've also talked to Rep. Jim Hawkins as well, just to get some, well, first, make sure that he sort of understands what we're doing here in the council, regardless of what the outcome is, but so that he can be prepared that should we submit a resolution to amend the home rule charter to the legislature, that he can file that with the legislature. It has to go through the House first. I had Virginia send this out earlier, the red line version of, I don't know if this actually showed up in the copy that you guys have, but Section 7 is, well, Section 7 is the section that the city solicitor redlined, and it looks like the way it came through is it's just underlined. So everything underlined is what's being suggested to change, and I think there's strikes through how it originally reads now in section 7. But I think everybody has the Word document as well that was emailed out. But essentially, the only change to this is instead of having this be effective upon passage, this change would be effective upon voter approval. And so the language is pretty broad to contemplate any city, well, the city's next general municipal election, but that could be, if for some reason it's not this coming November, I think the language could be broad enough to include a separate election. I know Sharon talked about a special election for this. I don't know that anyone's in favor of that, but it's an option. Otherwise, the city's next general municipal election would be 2027. So I've said this before, I'll say it again. I'm generally not in favor of changing these positions from elected to appointed, so it's not even something that I'd support to be on the ballot. And I've heard from many residents as well that procedurally they don't even think that this is probably the ideal way to approach it, and I agree. I mean, just sitting here looking at some of the and believe me, I've been looking at it for a while, some of the old business that's in my committee, ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. If you look at business that was submitted by then Councilor Jackson in 2020, requested a special commission be formed to review the city charter. I think there's a whole bunch of issues that we probably need to look at in the city charter. And so this has definitely brought to light this one particular instance of, two positions that, the mayor has proposed that we change from elected to appointed. But I think there are so many other things that probably need to be evaluated. And the right way to probably do that is through a charter commission or something of that sort, which is a much bigger task, I think, than what we're looking at now. I know in one sense it's not directly related to the business in front of us, but it's sort of caught up in I think that whole task if we were to approach that, in the near future. So anyway, the point being is I don't think this is the right route. I don't think that this is wise from a policy standpoint either, but this is we've been told what the process looks like, right? From the elections division, from the election commissioner George Spatcher, who was here a couple of weeks ago, and even working with the city solicitor in the state's election division. So we know what the process is at this point. The question is do we want to go down that road or not? So just generally rhetorically putting that question out there. Part of the reason I wanted to bring this up as well is because there is some time sensitivity between getting this approved by the legislature so that we can prepare to put the ballot question in this November's election. There's some time involved there. Holyoke did something similar where they actually changed these positions to appointed, so very similar to what we're looking at here, and the legislature actually approved that in 3 months. I mean, that's not necessarily a guarantee that that's what will happen here, but that's a recent case study that we can sort of look at for timing. So at this point, any questions, thoughts on this whole process? Anything, Councilor Foa?
My question is, why on earth would we have appointed positions for a 3-year term when the mayor has a 2-year term? And the mayor, as I understood it, what the mayor wants is to ensure that the people that, in this case, she believes are the most competent, the most on board with her programs, I suppose, to be selected with her. But if we have a 3-year term, then if a mayor is not reelected, then you're going to have a mayor who has leftover appointed people, and are they going to get fired? How does that work?
You can ask the mayor. This was presented by the mayor. The only thing that was
3-year
changed in
term.
here was Section 7, but
Okay.
I don't disagree with you. Councilor Lavoie?
Yeah, it's funny because that was the first thing my mind jumped to, so I echo your statement. I think that if we're going to put this through, it should match what's already set in place. I think adding a year is strange when it's been 2 years for I don't know how many years. So, but I'll beat the same drum as well that I still think it's very strange for this body to do the footwork on this and to put this through when it's something the administration wants and not something that the voters have asked for. I haven't gotten a single email since I began sitting up here for anybody in favor or against. I saw social media posts that seemed to favor the right to vote. So I just think that if, there's a push for this, let the citizens come forward and put in the effort to get it on the ballot. I feel like right now we're doing the footwork for the administration, which is odd to me.
And I generally agree with that perspective, and that's why I think a charter commission would be the right direction to go. I think that's more of a voter initiative in terms of voter input, and of course it's more holistic than just this piece of business. But I think it's a fair point. Counselor,
That's all right.
Counselor Waterman?
I'll do
Counselor
next.
Angelo?
Thanks, Council Tavares. Not that I've had any conversations with the administration on this, but being in the business world as long as I have been, the 3 years versus 2 years. The 2 years is an election process. The 3 years is a lot of appointed positions are that way. And it's sometimes, and I can't say that this is right or wrong, but part of the fact is that you might not have it line up with an election is because if you had every election come in and then you had these people bringing in their own people every time, then you're going to have this big change all the time. But at least it gives, I'm thinking, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying maybe some of the thinking might be that if you have a competent person in there and then you have, you know, another person come in and all of a sudden they just want to do a sweep and change and bring in Joe Schmo or something or other. Well, you got to at least give this person a chance to continue with their job for another year and to let them perform. I don't know if that's the thinking. I have no idea. I'm just saying in my business world, that's kind of been my experiences and how we would, you know, handle it. So that's about what I have to say on that.
Counselor Waterman?
Okay. I can't say that my phone's been ringing off the hook on this issue, although I did have 2 people who contacted me almost immediately after the mayor spoke in front of us, who felt very strongly that this is, that we need to have a charter commission if we're ever going to go forward. This has to be the will of the people, and I support that approach. Whether the people would want it, that would be up to the people. I'm not burning to change what we have. So that's all I have to say.
Well, I don't have any further comments on this. Anything else? Okay, sounds good. Well, I move to adjourn at 7:41.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're adjourned at 7:41. And the special committee on tax abatement is canceled this evening.
I call to order Special Committee on Classification and Compensation at 7:42. All right, Mr. President, Council Tavares, Council Reynolds. For the docket of March 4th, 2025, entertain a motion to hold a public hearing on April 15th, 2025 regarding the following amendment to the personnel rules and regulations for non-represented employees. Section 2A, stipend may be paid to an employee on the occasion of a temporary assignment of duties and responsibilities of a higher level position or other significant duties not part of the employee's regular position. A stipend may be also given when an employee is temporarily assigned to new projects requiring for a higher level of complexity, responsibility, and/or independence. Said stipend amount shall be calculated using for the amount of time assigned said temporary duties in the greater of the base salary rate of pay for the higher level position or 10% above the employee's regular base rate of pay. Subject to funding, the stipend shall be a one-time payment made to the conclusion of the temporary's duties herein described and does not constitute an increase in salary. The temporary assignment of duties described herein shall be for a minimum of 2 weeks and a maximum of 180 days, except when an extension is recommended by the Director of Human Services and approved by the mayor. This is just for a public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Tavares. And like I said, that's just for a public hearing. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 3-0. That's all for the Special Committee on Classification and Compensation. Call for meeting at the next appropriate time. And a call for adjournment at 7:43.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, we're adjourned. Also, did we cancel, or did it get canceled, the public safety?
Yes.
Council Lloyd did.
We did, okay, thank you, sorry, I must have missed that.
It's a wrap.
Just make sure you drop off your minutes.
Yeah.